Good morning. Over the past few weeks, I have visited classrooms throughout Edison while participating in the Read Across America program. It's wonderful to see our students in person and engaged in their classrooms. Education is the greatest tool humanity has to advance not only in technology, sciences, and the humanities, but in kindness, compassion, and mutual understanding. Here in Edison, we take that education mission very seriously. Our township consistently ranks among the top in the state and in the nation. My administration promised to collaborate with the Board of Education, Middlesex County, state and federal officials to increase outside funding and stabilize property taxes. The governor's announcement today is an example of those conversations coming to fruition. Students will learn that group projects continue after graduation. Running a government is a group project. Democracy is a group project. Education is a group project. Thank you, Governor Murphy and your staff, for being the best kinds of partners in this grand group project. Edison is proud to host you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. It is a treat to be here. Believe me, I'm proud and honored to be here. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your gracious words. It's great to be back here in Edison, one of the most consequential communities in our state. And it is particularly good to be here at James Monroe Elementary, home of the Owls. Again, Sam, I thank you as the great mayor, Council President Joe Coyle, and his fellow members of council. Principal Cindy Tafaro, where'd you go, Cindy? Thank you for greeting me, and thank you for your leadership. And God bless your blessed daughter. And I also thank you and your teams, the educators, the educator support staff, and to the entire Edison team, and specific here at Monroe Elementary. Honored to be joined by my colleague, Acting Education Commissioner Dr. Angelica Allen McMillan. Great to have you with us. Partner in government, and there is no better public servant than the Speaker of the General Assembly, Middlesex County's own Craig Coughlin is in the house. Outstanding leaders, State Senator, another dear friend and great leader, Pat Dignan is in the house. His colleague, Assemblyman Sterling Stanley. Sterling, great to have you. And Commissioner Director Ronnie Rios. Ron, great to see you, man. Board of Ed President and members, thank you so much for your leadership. Dr. Bernie Bragan, thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for your leadership as well. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Well, we have great union leaders here. We have the NJEA President, Sean Spiller, is in the house. And the AFT President, Donna Chiara, is in the house. Donna. And their colleagues. Pretty soon, it's a shorter list of people who I don't mention than I do mention. I also want to acknowledge a guy who's not here, Assemblyman Rob Karabinchak. And by the way, if you can't say Karabinchak, you can't walk into Middlesex County. Rob, I think, is chairing a hearing. I believe he's chairing a hearing in Trenton as we speak, and he's Edison's own, so I want to make sure I give him a shout-out, richly deserved. So James Monroe, fifth example of a great leader. Not a perfect leader like anyone else, flawed, but a transformational American president, the fifth American president, one of several, you can't make this up, one of several who passed away on the 4th of July. Which is kind of crazy, right? It's almost poetic. In his case, it was in 1831. And again, you know, the Monroe Doctrine, there's a lot of good things that came to him. So that's a great example of leadership. Again, not perfect, flawed, but great leadership. Let me give you an example of an awful leader, and that's Vladimir Putin. A savage, a thug, a liar, a piece of crap. In his regime, raining terror down on innocent Ukrainians is despicable at every single level. And we have to all stand united and continue to call this thug out at every single step of the way. We have a website. If you want to get things to refugees or even hopefully get things to Ukrainians inside of Ukraine, go to nj.gov/Ukraine. nj.gov/Ukraine. There's a bunch of organizations on there that are doing extraordinary work and I might add dangerous work in some cases. But this cannot stand. We cannot allow this to stand. So let's get back to why we're here. 2 days ago, I presented my proposed budget for the next fiscal year. And I think this is the 5th year in a row that 2 days later I'm in a school. And very happy to be at James Monroe this morning. It is a budget in general that continues our work in making our state stronger and fairer. And as I put it, to make New Jersey the state of opportunity. And make no doubt, opportunity starts, as Sam said, with a great education. And a great education starts with world-class public schools and world-class educators. This is why we have focused so much on investing in our schools, in our students, and in our educators and educational support staff. As I noted on Tuesday, we're going to invest a total of $9.9 billion in direct aid to our public schools. That is $650 million more than we did in this year's budget. By the way, back to Ukraine for 1 sec. Deb, can you raise your hand? Deb Kornavaka is our point person on Ukrainian matters. She's just finding this out. And Tim Hillman, raise your hand, to her left, is also co-responsible for this. So if you've got any specific questions or organizations that are doing good work, get to one of them, or Aliana Post to Tim's left, and we'll make sure we can connect you and or put that organization on our website for broader dissemination. So in this administration's first 4 years, we invested $3 billion more in K through 12 public education than the prior administration did across its last 4. And moreover, the budget I proposed provides nearly $2 billion more for K through 12 classrooms than when I took office in 2018. I'm not even speaking to pre-K today, but we've expanded that dramatically, and we are on the road to universal pre-K, which we're incredibly proud of. And yeah. And again, things like this don't get done by me alone. Speaker Coughlin is an extraordinary partner. Pat, Sturley, their colleagues. You do this, great mayors, great county leadership. You do this, as they say, it takes a village. Now, there are few better examples, and Sam alluded to this, of our commitment to funding our schools than right here in Edison. The year before our administration began our work, the Edison School District's total state aid wasn't even $15.5 million. For the upcoming school year, I'm proud to announce that Edison's state aid will be just shy of $47.6 million. You guys are happy, I know. In just 5 years, we have more than tripled state support for Edison's public schools. But as I've noted many times before, increasing school aid isn't just good news for students, which it is, for educators, ESPs, for the administration, staff, or for the Board of Education who sets the school budget. This is also good news for every single Edison resident, because every new dollar of state aid is a new dollar for property tax relief. It is a new dollar to keep this community affordable and inviting. Every new dollar we provide to Edison is a dollar that Edison doesn't have to come or ask for from local property taxpayers. And to make this point, the growth in state aid to Edison under our administration has outpaced the school tax levy growth. I do want to, before I get off the stage, want to look back a little bit further too, because we are, after all, in a school, given who it's named after, where history and perspective are important. So the year before the prior administration took office, so this is way back in the 2009-2010 school year, Edison's state aid topped $17.4 million. But the first thing the previous administration did was to gut funding for our public schools. And Edison lost more than half of its state aid, and in one fell swoop, by the way, an immediate cut of more than $9.7 million. It was a demoralizing blow, I know, to this community, a community that has always prided itself on the strength of its public schools. It took until the first year of our administration, by the way, that's 8 years later, in our administration's work to fund our public schools as we should, for Edison to finally get back above the level of state aid it was at before it was gutted. It's extraordinary. And Edison wasn't alone, by the way. This story has been repeated and written across the state. Literally hundreds of school districts were right there alongside Edison and seeing vital aid slashed to the bone and then some. And they are districts that today are similarly benefiting happily from our commitment to public schools. Now, not to make anyone feel old, but the students who were in kindergarten when state aid was gutted are today's soon-to-be graduating seniors. I am proud that their past 5 years have been underscored by greater investment in them and in their futures. As Sam said, great public schools build the workforce of tomorrow. Our state's future is literally being forged in places just like James Monroe Elementary. Great public schools protect the value of the investment homeowners and business owners make in a community like Edison. Great public schools make communities like Edison more affordable and attractive for new families who want to set their roots and raise their children here. I'm so proud to be able to be here this morning to share this good news for Edison's educational community, its kids, and its taxpayers. We are together going to make New Jersey the state of opportunity. Thank you all for being here, and more importantly, thank you for hosting me so graciously. I always got to make sure I give a shout out to the principal. I learned way back when I was 4 or 5 years old, you got to treat the principal with great homage. So Cindy, and particularly, thanks for hosting us today. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Acting Commissioner of the Department of Education, Dr. Angelica Allen McMillan. Please.
Well, good morning. Governor Murphy, as always, it is an honor to join you to celebrate your proposal of yet another momentous investment in education. Dr. Bragan, many thanks to you and your staff for such a warm welcome to the Edison Township School District community. To our distinguished guests, I'd like to thank you for joining us this morning. And it's also wonderful to have our County Superintendent of Schools, Kyle Anderson, with us today. This week marked a significant milestone in our school's path to recovery from COVID-19. The statewide school mask mandate has been lifted, and school communities can now absolutely. And school communities can now implement COVID-19 prevention strategies aligned to their unique needs. This significant step is made possible in part by the collective efforts of our school communities over the past 2 years. Thank you for the strength and resiliency shown throughout this most trying of times in the history of our state. In recognition of these challenging times, the governor's proposed fiscal year 2023 budget provides nearly $19.2 billion to support New Jersey schools, including overall increases in K-12 school aid, increases in preschool funding, and various new and continued programs that advance the progress made in building a stronger and fairer education system. I am ecstatic to continue implementing the 7-year phase-in to fully fund New Jersey's school funding formula that was set forth in S2. The governor's proposed budget advances that goal by adding $649.8 million in K-12 formula aid, making the full schedule phase-in for fiscal year 2023. The proposal also includes $20 million in stabilization aid to provide one-time assistance for school districts to implement plans that adjust to new funding levels. The fiscal year 2023 budget will also continue to champion preschool expansion, increasing preschool funding by nearly $68 million for a total of $991.8 million. Yes, I'm going to give a round of applause for that. Of that, $28 million of the fiscal year 2023 increase will support increased per pupil funding for existing programs and ensure that programs that expand this year can be made permanent, while $40 million would be dedicated to new preschool programs. All told, this budget proposal will expand high-quality, full-day preschool to an additional 3,000 children in 40 communities. That is wonderful. Importantly, the governor's proposal would not just advance the administration's longstanding education priorities, but also invest in innovation and in many programs that are designed to mitigate the impacts of COVID-19 in our school communities and future areas of impact. New and continued initiatives in this budget include $5 million to provide grants to support the necessary and important implementation of climate change education, $2 million for implementation of the Reading Acceleration and Professional Integrated Development Program to address learning loss, $4.5 million for the Supplemental Wraparound Program to support low-income families with before and after-school care, $2 million for the continuation of the Computer Science for All initiative, and $1.3 million to continue diversifying the teacher pipeline. This budget also reflects the understanding that school infrastructure improvements are critical, increasing funding for school facility projects with a $350 million appropriation continues the necessary enhancements to school facilities so that facilities are safe, healthy, and conducive to achievement. This budget would also maintain $75 million to support capital maintenance projects and emergent needs in regular operating school districts and $5 million for those same needs in charter schools. As we approach the 2-year anniversary of statewide school closures, I am awed by the yeoman's work in our schools to maintain safe, supportive, and enriching learning environments for our students and educators. In the space of 2 years, our schools built remote education systems from the ground up, applied layered prevention strategies to ensure the safe return to in-person learning, and welcome students and staff back to school buildings with innovative academic, social, emotional, and mental health programs. I am confident that this budget will empower school districts to continue that remarkable progress in innovating and enhancing equitable education opportunities across this great state. Thank you, Governor Murphy, for your unwavering commitment to high-quality education for all New Jersey students and educators. And thank you to the students, educators, and families of New Jersey for navigating the complexities of education through a pandemic with grace. Governor Murphy and all those in attendance, you have my commitment to do everything in my power to forward our shared goals, beliefs, and mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelica. 3 quick points. I think I remember these. Number one, and Sean and I spoke about this yesterday, and his colleagues. We need to make sure that pipeline, Donna, you agree with this, of teachers, the next generation, is as robust as possible, and it is as diverse as the state in which it serves. We are the most diverse state in America by many measures, including, I should have said this earlier, one of the largest Ukrainian populations. I think we're in the top 4 in the country. Secondly, learning loss and mental health challenges, which we all know exist and have been in some cases overwhelming. There is significant support in this budget to continue to address that. And then lastly, thanks to this guy, Speaker Coughlin, then Senate President Sweeney, and I early on realized that not only had we underfunded public education in the prior administration by over $9 billion, but we had not allowed the school funding formula to work. So the demographics of the state were out of sync with where the money was headed. So we agreed to, as Angelica mentioned, something called S2, which is a bill that we all signed on to that has a 7-year basically catch up to where the actual demographics are in the state. You couldn't do that overnight because it would have been too abrupt. And so this budget is year 5 of that 7-year journey, and we're committed to continuing that through to fruition. So thank you, Angelica, for your leadership and for your great comments. I've mentioned him several times. We wouldn't be here without him. Please help me welcome the Speaker of the General Assembly, Middlesex County Zones, Craig Coughlin.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Thank you for that kind introduction. Thank you all for being here. It is truly a special day and a great place for us to get together. This is a new school, as many of you know, and it's a really beautiful place. So to everybody who put that together, thank you. I know they had the terrible fire, but certainly from those ashes rose something really special. And I noticed, you know, you may have heard that I've had a little trouble with some of the folks in the assembly when it came to mask mandates and vaccination cards. I noticed there's a sign that says "Calm Down Corner." I was wondering if maybe you could make me one of those, so the next time this kind of stuff comes up, I've got something, a place where I can put them, which they so richly deserve. But thank you all for coming out. It really is a special day. As the governor pointed out, you know, we have a barbaric situation in the Ukraine, and Vladimir Putin is a piece of crap on his best day. But here in New Jersey, things are really looking up. Thanks in no small part to the extraordinary leadership of Governor Murphy through the pandemic. Let's give him a big round of applause. We're all here today. I forgot what some of you folks look like, and it's nice to see everybody's full face. Now, I personally suffered from that because, you know, you give me a mask, a baseball hat, and a pair of sunglasses, I'm come close to being handsome. But the truth is, it's nice to see everybody out, and we had that same spirit in the legislative chamber, both for the governor's budget address on Tuesday and for my voting session before that, and it felt good to be out. And normalcy is around the corner, and so. There's that. There's also what has become, I think, the norm in Trenton, and that is commitment to education in a real meaningful way in terms of funding. And we all know, all of us who are here know this, and I think we should take more credit for it as we reach out to people throughout the country. What we do in New Jersey in terms of our public education commitment is extraordinary. You know, we have the best public education system in the country, bar none, every year. Let's say that again. We have the best public education system. We're always 1, 2, or 3. For the last 2 years, we've been number 1. We're fixing to do that again as long as we're around. And it makes such a difference, right? Public education, and I'm the proud product of public education. South Amboy, well, it used to be Hoffman High, but the South Amboy public education system is something that I'm proud of. My kids went to public high school, public elementary school. We get to go around, the governor gets to go around when he's shopping New Jersey to CEOs and say, you know what, you don't have to send your kids to private school. You can have them go to some of the best schools in the country. You can still have your kids go to Ivy League schools. If you go to the public school in your district, most people can't say that. Most schools are, you know, most states don't do that. Somebody, I think Pat Dogner told me this story. He was at a conference in Louisiana and said, you know, we spend $5 billion on public education. And he laughed. He said, we spend $5 billion on kindergarten. Because we care that much, and it's an investment we make through our property taxes. It's an investment we make in Trenton, but it pays off. It's one of the really great investments we do because we know it is the backbone of the middle class. Public education is the backbone of the middle class. The middle class is the backbone of this state and this nation. It is that simple. And so when you invest in that, when we put the kind of money that the governor has put in this budget, and my colleagues who are here, Sterling Stanley, Rob Karabincic, who's here in spirit and who's actually leading, as we said, a committee, and Senator Dogden, who's been my dear friend for decades now, we get to vote for this, and we do that proudly. And it's been a terrific partnership with the governor. I'm flattered he called me a partner in the process. But we've done some really tremendous things to provide opportunity to students to make schools better throughout the state of New Jersey. And, there's a lot of talk about affordability in the state of New Jersey right now. As the governor points out, every dollar we send is a dollar less that has to be raised from the taxpayers, right? That's our job. Get it in and send it out and figure out how to do it right, and that's why S2 was so important. So today is a really terrific day. It announces the beginning of something that I know will be supported in the budget, hopefully, and I suspect largely with bipartisan support, because it matters to every community in this state. And so thank you all for coming out, and thank you for being part of something really, really neat. We're going to get to work on the budget. We're going to get this piece of it passed for sure. We're going to continue to make the kind of investment in schools that change kids' lives and make communities better. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Governor Murphy, for being such a terrific partner. Appreciate it.
You want to go to the calm down corner? Or?
No, I'm all right. I'm pretty calm. I'm always pretty calm.
Just wanted to give all of our speakers the option to go to the calm down corner. This is one of these win-wins, and Craig makes a point that I didn't make earlier, but I just want to put an underscore on it. This is a cold-blooded strategy for economic development in this state. It's not only right for our kids, educators, ESPs, property taxpayers. I'm over here. Thank you. Hi. I think we were just about to be clued in on a very private conversation, so let's Superintendent to the rescue. But listen, it's two things. It's creating the workforce for tomorrow, and secondly, it's to say to that CEO exactly what Craig said. By the way, your employees have to live somewhere. They live here. Your kids are going to go to the best public schools in America. That's hugely compelling when you sit across the table from somebody, I don't know where I should be. Certain states have easy bumper stickers. The weather's better, there's no income tax, whatever it might be. Our bumper sticker is we are the #1 state in America to raise a family, period. That's who New Jersey is, right? With that, I could go on, but I won't. The guy who just retrieved the walkie-talkie, Dr. Bernard Bregan, Superintendent of Edison Public Schools. Dr. Bregan, come on down.
Thank you, Governor.
Honored, man.
Appreciate it. I'm going to deviate from my script just briefly here for two reasons. My dad always told me to never follow a better speaker. I'm obviously violating that rule several times today, so please bear with me on that. I will do the best I can. The second thing is, and I think hearing our speakers today, I just want to share with the community that doesn't know, my parents moved to this town in the 70s for one reason. They could have gone anywhere. They picked this town because of their schools. And I'm proud to be, so many years later, leading this district because I get an opportunity to continue on that endeavor and pay it forward to other families who are making that same choice, who are moving to Edison Township for the reason of our education. And the commitment from the governor, from our commissioner, and everyone else who spoke, as well as our Board of Education, is second to none. And I'm really proud to be a part of it. I'm a living example of this school system, for better or worse, but hopefully for the worse, the better on most days. And I just wanted to say that before I start. So first and foremost, I want to thank the governor and all the dignitaries present today for allowing me this small opportunity to participate in this press conference. On behalf of the Edison Township Board of Education, administration, staff, students, and the parents of our community, I want to thank you for the significant increases in state aid we realized over the last several years. The financial support has allowed the district to provide immediate relief to the taxpayers of Edison, as was mentioned a number of times, by decreasing the percent of our annual budget that has to come from the tax levy. Most recently, the increase in state aid last year allowed the Board of Education to go at a zero tax increase levy. That's almost unheard of. This year, as we haven't talked about what that may look like, but it may materialize again this year. And as a number of people said, every dollar increase in state aid is one less dollar that we have to take from the local tax levy. That's significant, providing immediate tax relief to our community during these difficult times. You know, who knows what gas will be in a few months, right? Or what the cost of everything is with inflation. Those things are beyond our control, all of us here, to some extent. And yet, the things we can control are little things like this. And every dollar we get from the state is welcomed by our community, by our Board of Education, and me, and I thank you for that. These increases have enabled our school district to dedicate monies to capital and building projects, to upgrade our facilities, and provide relief to our community for many of the overcrowding issues we have. One example of this is the $9 million addition currently under construction at the Lincoln Elementary School, with an opening date of September 2022. That project, coupled with the other enhancements that were only possible with these increases in state aid, have enabled our district to implement full-day kindergarten beginning again in September of 2022. None of these things, none of them, would have been possible without the increased state support. We are grateful for the efforts of everyone involved in that endeavor and helping our district continue to provide a superlative educational program for our students in our community and allowing us to continue in Edison to settle for nothing less than excellence. On behalf of our Board of Education and our entire school community, we thank you for your continued support, and most importantly, always shine bright, Edison. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bregan. Your dad would have been proud of you because you didn't violate that, that principle. Now I'm embarrassed to speak after you. Let's get the walkie-talkie on again. So well said, particularly your personal story and the decision your mom and dad made to come here because of the schools and the opportunity in this town. I called Edison, and I will repeat it, what I said earlier, one of the most consequential communities in our state. One of the fastest growing, one of the most diverse, and one of the most consequential. And at the backbone of all of that is the education reality. We are, in many respects, the quintessential American Union state. I got a call last night on a topic from Liz Schuler, who is the president of the AFL-CIO nationally, and had a great conversation about a thorny issue. But she called me and she said, the reason I'm calling you is I know where New Jersey is when it comes to unions. And there is no better example of that than our educators. Whether it's Donna and her colleagues at the AFT, by the way, some of whom significant through K through 12 and a whole bunch of them in higher education, and a lot more coming. And Sean, who we're about to hear from, which have some in higher education as well, but a huge amount in our pre-K through 12 communities. We wear that America's quintessential union state as a badge of honor, because these are the best educators, not just the best education, public education in America, the best educators in America. And representing those educators, the president of the NJEA, Mayor Sean Spiller. Come on, Sean.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is great to be with all of you, and certainly as we begin today, I want to echo what so many others have said. You know, today is just a celebration. I think that's why we're all here. You know, first and foremost, after the last number of months and years, to be able to come together like this, to be able to gather, to be able to do so with the safety that's come with the great decisions the governor's made through this pandemic and so many other leaders. It's just wonderful to see everybody, literally. So I'm just thrilled to be here. And certainly, I want to take a moment, as everyone has noted, It's always a team effort to get things done. Please join me. Just give a round of applause to Lois Yukna, Jeff Bowden, Scott Murphy, and Teresa Moran at the local level, county level, really helping to get it done. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate it. As I was thinking about what to say today, we talk about a celebration. I had the opportunity to be down when the governor did his budget address and listen to the priorities he had put forward. And I think what we're talking about is a record-breaking, historic investment in public education. But I thought about it for a moment, and I said, well, that's about every budget you've put forward. It's been the record-breaking investment in public education, one after the next after the next. And I think it's really a testament to what this governor has run on. He's been true to every step of the way, which is, yes, with a globally self-serving position of a strong educational system, helps an economy, helps a state, helps all of us achieve what we want to. But when we talk about the kids, when we talk about the staff, we talk about the educators that affects, it makes a huge difference when you've got a governor who's there supporting what you're doing, giving you the resources you need to help our students versus one who isn't. So Governor Murphy, certainly we applaud you for those efforts. Thank you very much. Certainly, I think when we talk about education as a top priority, we're celebrating a budget, and that's why we're all gathered here today. But I think we're also talking about the impact that education has, and I say that in the context of literally 2 years ago, we were in a position where our lives were turned completely upside down as educators, and certainly as a state and as a nation. We were literally wrapping our heads around, what are we going to do for the next 2 weeks as we shut down our schools, right? That was the conversation that everyone was having and trying to figure out. And of course, next thing you know, here we are on this 2-year journey. I don't think any of us thought it would take, this long and to be able to come through. But, as we were thrust into that situation, we all understood collectively that the only way we were going to get through that was if we all worked together. And when we talk about a team, administratively, board members, administration at the state level, commissioner, educators, parents, students, all of us had to come together to say, what do we need to do? How can we do it? Because we need to do it very quickly, and we need to do it to make sure that our students can, number one, stay safe and healthy, and number two, continue to learn. And I think that has really been a testament that the speaker noted it before. We were really proud that over a number of years, we've always been at the top in terms of our schools, but we're ranked number one for a couple years in a row going into. Well, certainly I was proud that even 14 months into the pandemic, our schools were ranked as the number one in the nation. And I think that deserves a lot of applause for our educators as well. As I represent the 200,000, educators and the 1.4 million students that we serve and the parents and others who did have to figure out what that looks like, we know what we had to do, but that's only possible because we had great supporters like the governor, like the speaker, who understood, and when the speaker noted and kind of laughed at the number in terms of the investment we see from other states in education, the investment we see right here, that mattered during the pandemic as well, because when we said we've got students who can't connect, they stepped up and said, let's get the dollars to our districts so that they can. We've got to make sure we've got enough devices for the number of students in a home. We've got to make sure we can help these parents with spaces that they all stepped up and came forward. I often talk about, we've got the best schools in the nation because of the 200,000 people who work in our schools, drive kids in their school buses, help them in the cafeteria. All those pieces matter. But we have the best schools in the nation because our governor and our legislators, they invest in our schools as well. That's not just an easy thing to do. That takes courage at times, and certainly it's seeing that vision for the future. But it is because of that partnership, that true partnership, that we're able to do things like closing a digital divide in the middle of a pandemic, ensuring that we have all the different pieces for communities to be able to support their students and their families, making sure that we're following the facility upgrade recommendations and pieces needed to come back to schools as quickly as we could. That all matters. And I think, seeing that we were able to do that, it wasn't by accident, it wasn't by luck, it was because of a lot of great work of a lot of great people, including many that are in this room today. So I'm just so proud of all of that together. And I think for me, as we looked ahead, we all know that we've got a lot of work to do, focusing on the social and emotional needs of our students and staff. I think we have to put that first and foremost and understand students cannot learn unless we address that piece. So we've got work to do there. You don't say we're done with a pandemic or we're into an endemic and we're fine. Nope, there's a lot of work that's going to take years for making sure we're with our students. As educators, we know we always have to meet them where they're at, and that work will certainly continue. But as we move through a pandemic, and certainly as we talk about getting through, that's one thing, but I think emerging stronger on the other side of it. There's no guarantee as to how we do that and do it well, but I know that because of the commitment of our governor, the budgets that we see here, the commitment that we see from administrators and districts throughout the state. I know that with the work of our 200,000 members, certainly, and the support, that we will do so successfully. We will make sure that we are there for our kids every step of the way. So with that, I certainly, I'm just excited that we're able to be here safely. We're able to talk about a situation where our students can be enjoying each other's company and being with their educators, doing so safely as well, doing so in an environment where there's actually support for the work going on and a long-term commitment, a real commitment from this governor to invest in their success, not just with words, not just at a microphone, but as we always say, when it comes time for a governor, in this case, a legislature, to put their priorities in front of us, it's with a budget. And over again, this governor, this speaker, this legislature has shown that they're willing to do that, and we're all absolutely grateful. Thank you very much.
Incredibly gracious, Sean, to you and Donna and your colleagues all over the state. Bless you. And thank you for everything you do. And we're here to talk about the budget. And by the way, it's a wrap. I'm the last words you're going to hear. Dignan is thrilled. Dignan, that was as they say in soccer, an unnecessary yellow card right there. We're here to celebrate the budget, but as Sean rightfully, and thank you for your gracious words about the budget, you rightfully point out, let's also acknowledge we're here both to celebrate that we got through the past couple of years and acknowledge that the fallout from the past couple of years goes on. And so to the moms and dads who were heroic, to the educators, whether it was remote learning or in classroom but with masks, to the administrators, the boards of education, all members of the community, my legislative partners, Sam and Joe and members at the township level. 2 years ago, I remember what I was doing 2 years ago today, and it wasn't pretty, and it wasn't fun. It was Tuesday, March 10th, 2 years ago, and we didn't know what had hit us. And I don't think any of us ever comprehended then that it would be 2 years, that it would be over 30,000 losses of life, that we would have the disruption to our lives, education as good an example as any, that we would need to make sure every kid got a hot meal before we could allow that school to shut down. As Sean rightfully pointed out, I'm proud of the fact, and we did this together, everybody, we closed the digital divide to zero, literally to zero. And that's something I don't think any other state could say. And yet it was not easy, and let's all acknowledge it will continue to not be easy, whether it's mental health, whether it's learning loss, stress. By the way, certainly with our kids, but our educators, their moms, their dads, administrators, boards, whoever is in this educational community, we all acknowledge, and the budget acknowledges this, I'm proud to say, that the work goes on. So on behalf of everyone who spoke and all of the august folks in this great James Monroe community, especially, again, I got to always make sure I give a shout out to the principal. So Cindy, thank you for hosting us so graciously. To you and your colleagues, thank you all.